Good evening. This is UNT Percussion's 10 Questions Plus with the amazing Casey Cangelosi. So we're so excited to have him here with us and speaking with our students. My name is Mark Ford. I coordinate the percussion program at UNT. We've been doing this UNT 10 Questions Plus now. This is our second semester. I would just want to announce to everybody that we do have one additional session coming up in 2 weeks. Steel pan virtuoso Andy Norell will be with us on Monday, March the 22nd, and that'll be our final conversation for this semester. But tonight we have Casey. Casey and I've known each other a long time. He's been a dear friend. He was back on campus. It's been 6 years ago, Casey. Can you believe that, when you came and played a recital and played with the ensemble?
No, that does. Yeah, no, I can't believe that, actually.
Doesn't seem that long. Yeah, but Casey is the percussion professor at James Madison University in Harrisonburg, Virginia. Really beautiful campus and amazing school of music there. And he's also a world-renowned composer and has performed really in all over the world as well. And a great performer and wonderful teacher. So if you guys would all welcome Casey Cangelosi.
Hey everybody! Thanks.
Virtual applause. Yeah.
That's louder than plenty of virtual applauses. That's for sure. Yeah, thanks so much, Mark. Yeah, that's wild. It has been 6 years already, and anyway, yeah, really cool. I even see some familiar faces in here already, like everybody. So hey, yeah, thanks so much, and yeah, it's really great to be here, and it's. I took a look at the roster and I thought, oh no, like what am I doing here? We got Keiko Abe, we got Steve Gadd, we got Rainer Carroll. Like, okay, all right, I got my A game here for you, Mark.
Well, we're excited. We've got some questions planned for you, but first we did open this up to anybody outside of UNT. So if you're joining us from someplace else, you'd like to put your name in the chat and tell us where you're zooming in from, that would be awesome. But we're going to get started tonight with Jacob Fullinwider. Jacob, I see him right here on my screen. Jacob, are you ready to go?
Yep. Hello, Mr. Cangelosi. It's a pleasure to have you here and talking with us. My question for you is, what does your composition process look like? Has it changed over the years? And what other composers inspire you?
Yeah, sure. Thanks, Jacob. And, feel free to, go back and forth with me here. It's a dialogue. I haven't prepared a big 15-minute response or anything for you. So yeah, feel free to, go back and forth with me. But I think, yeah, it's certainly changed over the years. And I think actually one of our later questions of like, how do you tie two seemingly unrelated technical ideas or conceptual ideas together? Like, how do you tie those together? Because I remember being in that same stage thinking like, okay, I have these like two things I really like, but I can't get them to go together. And what do I do with them? And like the answer usually is like, well, they're probably because they're two different pieces, and that's I think a typical young composer place to be in. So I've kind of gotten past that. I've kind of gotten to a stage where, oh, okay, no longer do I have to push to and struggle to try to make two ideas fit. Either they're not going to blend together easy, or you're just going to put them in separate places and let them be separate. That's one example that came to mind as I was looking down through the questions. But as far as just like how it looks, I'm a notebook keeper, and I kind of decided at the last minute I'd do this at home today. So I happen to have some notebooks here, and sure, I just like, this is what my notebooks look like, and they're really messy. I hope you don't see any cuss words or any unrelated, drawings or things that don't make any sense. But these couple of pages, let's see, that was one page. Here is, let's see, oh, here's another page of this. I think this is all the same piece. I'm not sure, actually. The second page doesn't seem familiar. Some of you, if you know this piece, you might recognize what this one is. And if you do know it, go ahead and shout it out. Sophia, you nodded like you know it. Yeah, can you show us what you were doing there? You were doing the gesture just now. You can unmute if you want.
Yeah, it's Bad Touch. It's one of my friend's favorite pieces. I wanted to play it sometime.
Cool. Yeah, thanks. That's neat. And will you do that little gesture you were just doing again? So she's kind of rocking hands back and forth.
Yeah, I remember it's like you're pretending to have like or do you have a drumstick? I believe you have a drumstick and you're just flinging around like that.
Yeah, rocking it back and forth just like that. So I mean, of course, like, you know, the sketch is there. You know, most stuff that ends up in the final version is somewhere in the like, oh yeah, let's sketch this out. So yeah, I was just always a notebook keeper, and I imagine when I came to see you all at UNT 6 years ago, I had one of these notebooks with me for the plane ride and for the car ride and for just the downtime in the airport. And that's kind of the idea place dump for me. And I need like blank space to work with, and I need to be able to have like this garbage dump idea on this page, and like maybe we'll use it, and then I need to be able to see it very quickly in, you know, 2 pages later when I go back to it. It's actually very similar to like my desk. I mean, it's just like it's not a, I mean, I guess it's a mess, but it's that kind of like organized mess. Like, yeah, it appears cluttered, but I know where everything is, and if I can see everything all at once, I can plan better. So I think the notebook is very much that way also. And I think how it looks in real life isn't necessarily how I would advise to do it. Like, I think if I were to say that's what it looks like for me, but if I were to advise you to do it, like, no, I mean, I think you should take like a more dedicated workspace, a spot that is your go-to place for like an hour every day and then 3 hours on the weekends, or, you know, it's some kind of like sanctioned designated composition space. But another one of our questions later is like, how do you manage lots of stuff life throws at you and balance all the different life things? And you know, sometimes you just don't have the ideal situation, and you don't have the ideal circumstances to write the way you want to, or to practice the way you want to. So hey, you practice the way how you can, and that's been this way. The most productive thing about these notebooks is just conceptualizing. So this is the Bad Touch kind of concept in a drawing for me. And I don't know, it's seen, I look back at it now and half of it I don't quite understand what it means, but I still understand the big picture, you know. And let's see, what is this? This is Pluto, this is the sun, this is Earth, and Pluto's radiating these bad vibes out into the universe, down to Earth. And and these are the quotes from the people who have been touched according to the concept of the piece. But like that drawing alone is like, okay, that's like the big picture idea. And you know, Jacob, you asked also like, how has it changed over the years? And I think that big picture idea is a big part of it. You know, being able to look back and think about a big concept or like a big conceptual idea, and then working from there. Because a lot of people, a fun conversation with composers is, you know, in your head, do you have the end first or do you have the beginning first? And to me, I can't write the beginning unless I have the end, and I can't write the first note unless I kind of have a broad picture idea of what this is supposed to resemble and what it's supposed to do. And I think that's a big change too from when I was a student. You know, I think when you're a student, or at least when I was a student, I was often just like, hey, I like this lick. How do I get this lick into a piece? I really want to play this lick for people. This riff is awesome. And I still write like that sometimes, certainly. But now it's like you put those riffs inside of a bigger concept, hopefully, that'll, you know, hopefully invoke some ideas and some feelings. Let's see, I have, let's see. Oh, thank you, man. Mark, you're on top of it. Letting me screen share already. Thank you. Let's see here. So I thought I would just show like what that score ended up looking like a little bit. And yeah, it sounds like a few of you have seen this already. But of course, with big picture concept and everything, and then there were kind of these like categorical movements. I mean, basically, you could basically call them movements, but it helped me to have them all very thematic and programmatic to the concept. So they had little titles, which I just thought helped me understand everything. This is the section that Sophia was sharing with us there. We are rocking the stick back and forth. There's another question coming up, I know, and we can ask it again when it comes up, because maybe there'll be more to say at that point. But what piece took the longest to write or to finish? And this one might have been right there, because I had to take a lot of pictures. Like you can see, I took a picture of myself there doing the gesture, because I don't know if you've all ever tried to write or describe or interpret one of those pantomiming pieces, or something like maybe Table Music by Terry DeMay. There's tons of like intricate drawings and detail. And I thought, well, I'm gonna try to use photography to like explain this, hit up, catch, grab, and what those things will look like. So that was kind of the process for the whole piece. Yeah, here's a lot of those photographs that took a long time. I think this is a good example of just labor-intensive composition. There's that old saying, composition is, 1% inspiration, 99% perspiration, right? Meaning like inspiration is a very small portion of it, a very small part, and the rest is just hard work. The rest is just like, yep, you're gonna have to do this till your wrist is sore. And actually, I use a mouse on my left side now, because I've done so much pointing and clicking with music and score creation like this that a mouse hurts my right hand now. I use two mice in my office, a right and a left one, so I can go back and forth more just for comfort. And here at home, where I don't work as hard, I just have a left side mouse, because my right hand can't deal with it anymore after all this pointing and clicking. And yeah, bad touch was a big part of that. A big part of that was in the DAW also for the tape track, because I had to do a whole lot of clicking and grabbing and drawing and everything. So yeah, all those photographs took a really long time. Yeah, so that's about the end of that one. Let's see. So yeah, I guess let's see. I think there was another part of your question also, Jacob, wasn't there?
Yeah, it was who inspires you? What other composers inspire you when you create?
Oh yes, thank you. I mean, it's just what you run into. I'll tell you, just because who we're running into here today. I mean, I remember when Professor Ford came to the University of Utah, and I was I was either early college or high school.
Don't say it.
I mean, I think I might have been in college, but anyway, I was younger. I mean, we were all younger, and and I mean, just seeing like, okay, I feel like your CD release was Polaris, and Polaris was fantastic. But I mean, I also remember listening to the Process of Invention, by Christopher Dean, just on repeat. I mean, just over and over and over and over. And I mean, I think you kind of go through big reveal moments of simply, oh wow, that can be done on marimba. Okay, I didn't know that. And then once you understand that can be done, all of a sudden all this freedom is opened up, and you realize like, oh, just seeing it done, all of a sudden you realize, oh, you can do it, and other people can do it, and that means you can write so much more. Or like getting my hands on Christopher Dean's The Process of Invention. I mean, it was just dizzying, I mean, it was like the most dizzying thing I had ever seen at that point. And it was the most substantive marimba solo I'd ever seen at that point. And it was long, it was conceptual, it was cool, it was thought out. It was, that was a big moment. So I mean, I think you're kind of just living every day hoping the big moments come sooner, because you enjoy them so much and they teach you so much.
Sincere
My-
thank you, Casey, by the way. Just going to say that. It's very,
Sorry, what?
that means a lot to me. And
Oh,
so thank you. Thank you. I'll step back again now.
oh yeah, Mr. Dean. Yeah, thanks. No, you're really welcome. And I mean, yeah, it's, yeah, I totally mean it. I mean, I absolutely mean it. You know, it's just totally the truth. And actually a similar thing happened to me with your Etude for a Quiet Hall. You know, I mean, it's just, yeah, very, very impactful and important. And, my dad was an athlete. He's a mathematician, but he was an athlete through college. He was actually ran track in high school, and then he was a point guard for LSU in basketball, and then he coached and stuff like that. But he told me the story of the fastest mile, like as in like in track running, right? And when he was in college or high school, it was like 6 minutes. You know, that was the fastest. And as soon as somebody broke that record, you know, they got 5:55 or whatever. Like, not only did many people do it after, but they did it like the next day. And then the same thing happened as it whittled down to, you know, whatever it is now. So as soon as somebody broke, you know, 4 minutes, not just soon after, but like literally the next day, like people match that same record. So I think seeing compositions like that, it really helps just to get a sense of what's possible. And of course, as we know, if you've been paying attention to percussion for even a short time, you can see just how like we're still discovering how far we can go with all of our instruments. And just like marimba technique alone is something you keep coming back to and looking at and going like, oh, I guess we can do more with this. So yeah, I hope that kind of does it there.
Thank you so much. Yeah.
Sure. Yeah. Thank you.
Outstanding. Thank you, Casey. Our next question is from Kailey Filben.
Hello, Mr. Cangelosi. Thank you so much for being with us tonight.
Sure. Hi.
So my question for you is, as an active performer, composer, and educator, what's the most important thing that you want your students to know by the time they graduate? And what abilities should students have for them to be prepared before entering the real world?
Right. Yeah. It's hard because it's not straight across the board for all of them. Like, I feel like if they were just a student, let me assume I'm, you know, teaching someone I don't know yet, you may say, well, I really want them to end up realizing that, hey, eventually there won't be grades and teachers to, you know, push you to do this, and like you got to do it. So eventually you're going to have to be this self-sustaining, self-sufficient, inspired artist. Now, some of them, it's interesting because they show up and they already have that, you know, they've already got that, and you feel like it, you know, it doesn't matter what I do, this person's gonna work really hard, and they're really gonna just totally be with it and focused. And like, that student might need something really different. You know, the thing I want them to walk away with is, hey, you can't just enjoy this in your head for your whole life. You're going to have to really get out there and get practical about it. You're going to have to make content, which isn't fun. You're going to have to edit videos, which isn't fun. You can't just be isolated, recluse artist your whole life if you want a career in this. I actually had this, let me see if I can find this real quick. I had this old beta 2020. That's got to be it, right? Let's see. Is that it? No, that's not it. Shoot, let me see if I can find this real fast. Sorry. Let's see. Cool, this looks like it. Okay, this is kind of fun. But let's see. Like I think we all have a a different build, if you will, and there's a lot of different things I think we all need. So this this is from a clinic I shared a while ago, I guess this last summer, and we kind of think of like, okay, here's what I want to be. I want to be a large ensemble section performer. So the stuff I'm going to need is like, you know, high ensemble ability, really good time, and like recording chops because I'm going to have to make audition tapes and so on and so forth. And I'm not going to need that much chop because ensemble stuff isn't the hardest stuff in the world. It's not as hard as being a soloist. So, or you're going to want to be a chamber ensemble performer. So like the stats you're going to need are like really different. And so, okay, now because you're a chamber ensemble, your chop's going to have to be higher. Your recording is going to have to be higher because you're going to have to do a lot of promotion for what you'll face in the real world. This is all just like silly video game inspired stuff, and some of you I'm sure are getting this and others of you are not, but your hit points are going to have to be higher because you're going to have to eat rice and beans for a little longer. It's going to take longer for your chamber group to get further. You're going to have a higher defense because more people are going to give you harder obstacles to deal with. There's less institutional support inside of a new chamber group. If you want to be a university professor, you're going to need this additional like email defense buff and BS resistance buff because you're going to have to deal with university red tape, so on and so forth. But I think we really we really think of what we want to do as like, oh, I'm going to need these specific skills to do this one thing. And it's all over the map in real life. Like you end up seeing just like everyone is so built a little different. They're built so different, and they end up doing a job that it doesn't sound like every single thing they worked on and did and went for like would go towards that job. So it's hard. It's really hard to say like what is the thing that everyone needs. And I definitely don't know. It's certainly case by case. But if I had to pick one thing, I think it would be that like self-motivation, that self-reliance, because you meet certain people and you just know like, oh, this person's going to be all right. Like no matter what I do, this person's going to be all right. And then you meet this other person and you think, oh, okay, they're going to be all right while they're around me. And while I'm lighting a fire under them, and I can tell this student like really doesn't want to disappoint me, so they're going to be okay as long as I'm around, but I'm not going to be around. Degrees are really short. I'm not going to be around, and I really need them to hopefully catch the bug. As Bill Kahn put it from Nexus. You need to catch the bug, and that whether that's the practice bug or the composition bug or just the work ethic bug of like yes, I need to be like addicted to this. I need to have a sense of like, yes, I have to do this. So regardless of whether I have a teacher or not, or whether I have an institution threatening a bad grade against me or whatever, like I'm going to do this. Regardless. And the author Angela Duckworth calls that grit. And she studies this. She's someone who looked into this and studied it very extensively. And yeah, she calls it grit, and that's the version of that I think is the most important. So I really hope they leave with that, because apparently you can have all sorts of different levels of talent and experience, but if you have grit, according to her research, you're going to do okay.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, sure. Thanks.
Awesome. Thank you, Casey. Yeah, we deal with a lot of grit, don't we, from time to time? That's really really good explanation. We're gonna go to Yun-Chen Chou now, and Yun-Chen, are you there?
Yes, I am.
Okay.
Hello, Mr. Cangelosi. Thank you for being here tonight. And my question for you is, what was it like learning from Nancy Zeltsman, and what were the most important lessons she taught you? Also, would you like to share some stories between you and Pius Cheung when you were both in Boston? Very excited.
I would. Yeah, Pius has been such a good something I tell my students, let me say this, like your colleagues there, your fellow students, they are probably going to be the more valuable to you in the long run than your teachers. Like your teachers are real important. You need your teachers for a lot of reasons, but your friends and those relationships you make, that's really, the next generation of students and people who are going to be commissioning works from each other, working at Percussive Art Society together, hiring each other. You know, it's like, I don't have a position to hire you with at my university, but likely one of you who gets a job somewhere and is putting something together, you're going to say like, oh, you know what, I really want to work with Curtis. You know, Sophia's going to start a chamber group or something and say like, oh, you know what, Curtis really, he was like so good at social media and he was so good at editing, and I really want Curtis to do that. She's probably not going to ask Mark Ford to do that. I mean, she might, but we all know the answer is going to be like, oh, thank you, Sophia, but I don't have time to do that. I appreciate the offer. So I mean, your relationships with each other are really, really important. And I'm reading the chat. But Pius has been one of those people for sure. You know, it's like we became friends in school, and we've just stayed good allies and really good, you know, good support and help for each other, even when it's like as simple as, hey, you know, I want to do a festival. Do you want to do it with me? But also things like, you know, hey, Steve Weiss is asking for some music to begin carrying. What do you think is the right like discount number that you offer for a retailer? I mean, just stuff like that. It's been really, really, really important. But yeah, no. So unfortunately, there aren't too many terrible, funny stories from Boston Conservatory. But maybe I'll think of some. Learning from Nancy was fantastic. I went in with Nancy to my first lesson, and I remember her saying like, yeah, your technique is good. We don't have to talk about that. And we didn't for 2 years. You know, I did a master's degree there and we never did. And that comment alone was just mind blowing to me, because I was coming from a place where, you know, I just wanted to play the fastest, hardest stuff possible. And I wanted to write the fastest stuff possible. And Nancy just simply said, oh yeah, your technique's good. We don't have to touch on that. And then we only did other things. We only did things about expression and form and concept and delivering. And yeah, I mean, she really knew how to how to see what I was bad at and make me not bad in it anymore. So yeah, I mean, I really like Nancy Zeltsman so much. And yeah, she did wonders for me for sure.
Hey, Casey.
Yeah.
Maybe Pius Cheung has some stories about you. What do you think?
Is he here?
I don't know.
I bet he's here.
How?
Oh, hey. I see.
How do you wear clothes for a concert?
Hey, buddy. What? Oh yeah, go ahead. That's a good story.
What are your concert clothing requirements?
You look extra bald right now. Can you do something with your camera?
Oh, I can't swear here, right?
I mean, you probably can, but can you fix that camera?
Is that better?
Yes.
Perfect. Did you say you can't square or you can't swear?
Oh, swear.
Yeah, that's a funny story. You can tell that. Yeah, I just talked about how you guys take care of me, so that's one of them.
Oh, well, which time? Meatballs, lamb leg, or the whole shirt?
Well, I think you were about to tell the whole shirt story.
Oh,
They
the
bought
whole
me a
shirt.
shirt in Taiwan.
No, it was just one. On more than one occasion, Casey Cangelosi regularly goes onto stage with a shirt, like Old Navy t-shirt, with a hole in the armpit. I don't know why it's always in the armpit, though. And he just walks on, for instance, there was this one time he walked onto the National Concert Hall in Taipei. He just walked on with a whole shirt. And he was wearing sandals, and he's got like one broken stick.
That's a great story, Pius. This is going great. Everyone is
Yeah.
Everyone.
Well, how many people are here?
Like 1,000.
Oh, Ed Smith is here.
No, there was yeah, well, I was playing the piece we were talking about, which is bad touch, and all you need for that is black clothes and a stick, one single stick, and you need a playback track. And so yeah, right, we were playing in Taipei, and I think you were there that year, Mark. I think you were there with us. And yeah, Pius and Erico saw my concert clothes, which were nice black pants and the black shoes and a t-shirt, and it had a little hole in the armpit, which the audience would never see. And Erico in particular was so bothered
She was so upset.
she was just philosophically like upset. It was really kind of touching. And anyway, they went and out and bought me like new clothes because they were upset. So anyway, that's that allyship I'm talking about.
Allyship, is that a word?
Yeah, it is. Look it up.
I got to Google this.
Collegialship. Look it up.
Wow, you really sound like you've been on a lot of Zoom classes.
Pius, he really said some beautiful things about you before you came on. Your timing was a little behind what I had anticipated, but it's all
that was
good.
I could feel it coming. It's like I think Pius is here. I can tell by Mark's tone. Pius is gonna be here.
Did you what did you talk about
so far?
Yeah,
we talked about time at Boston Conservatory a little bit.
Oh, and, no, with Nancy and Chris and Humito.
Yeah, no, that was like a really, well, I was talking about how, like, I telling these guys, you know, you should really keep track of each other and be really good to each other, because you may end up finding like your most you most likely will find your best allies and like your best partners and your best collaborators like right here, you know, at school. You know, this degree, the next degree, who knows? But, you know, my first job that I ever got, my first little adjunct position was just, I got because a friend said, oh, I recommend Casey for this position. You know, hey, can you recommend a percussionist from campus that you think would be really good? Oh yeah, Casey, do Casey. Casey's. Anyone else? Nope, Casey, do Casey. He's the nicest person. He's the best one to work with. And that was it. It was a recommendation from a friend. I mean, if I didn't have that first university college teaching experience, I wouldn't have gotten the current one I have, because I don't have a doctoral degree. You know, like Pius needed his doctoral degree to get anything in life. Like that's what he needed. He wouldn't have gotten anything done without it. And I didn't need that. So that's what happened.
What? But you have 2 master's degree.
Yeah.
Oh, so the first one you didn't learn anything? Is that what you're saying? From Boston Conservatory? You know, I'm about to spread Nancy an email.
Sure. Yeah. No, I just told them all I learned from Nancy. I learned a lot from Nancy.
You were also the troublemaker in class.
Mm-hmm.
He was the guy passing off notes secretly under the table, and Nancy got so upset.
All right, Mark, you want me to hang up on him?
All right, okay.
What are you gonna do?
All right, one quick question to Pius. Okay, Pius, when do you have a moment when you were listening to Casey perform or a piece that he had composed when you went, oh man, this is really something special?
There were a couple. In school, it was what was that? The A minor Etude. I'm going like, holy wow! I mean, expletive. I'm like, this guy is like crazy. And then he played my E minor Etude. I'm like, and then another expletive. I go, wow. And then, but what really? All right, a compliment, dude. So what? But when he played his multi music, what was one of the first one, Casey? With your long hair that starts with an N.
See, you don't even know.
No, I remember this with that crazy. No, don't tell me. You look like a homeless guy in the video.
I think I have a photo of the piece actually. Let me see. Here it is.
Are you sharing it?
Just while you're thinking of it, Pius.
But you know, his multiple percussion playing really like hit me in the face. I'm like, wow, this is like different. Like this is something no one else has done. And then a few years later, he started doing the theatrical stuff, and I'm like, whoa, cool. That's another new direction. So, I mean, I gotta give props to Casey for being so creative with all the graphic notation things. Dang it! Not this one, the homeless one. But you know, I was complimenting you. Now I lost my train of thought. Stop distracting me.
I remember that E minor Etude story.
Yeah, you kept playing it faster and faster, and you did it. I said it as a joke, and you did it.
Yeah. Hey, look at Sophia's background.
Wait. So
I think,
Oh no, why you burned me?
There was a Christmas break when they locked the building, the practice building at Boston Conservatory, and Pius and Erico took me in and made dinner for Jimmy and I like every night for like a
That was
month.
fun.
Yeah, that was
That
fun.
was
But we talked about music all day and just watched bad TV and stuff like that. It was really good.
that was when Casey introduced us to Naruto, the anime,
Mm-hmm.
and I think he fell off and just stopped watching at some point. I finished it.
Yeah, it's ridiculous.
awesome. Casey, Pius, thank you so much for popping in. You're welcome to stay as long as you want. We've got a lot of students that have questions for Casey,
Oh, yeah.
and they don't involve you, I don't think, so we can move ahead. Yeah.
I'm gonna stop video and mute myself, but if you don't mind me hanging out, it'll be
Oh
cool.
yeah, you're welcome. Goodness gracious, thank you so much, buddy. Wow.
Hey, Pius, I've been invited on this, and Keiko Abe was here, Steve Gadd was here, so just saying.
I think Mark made a mistake and just clicked the wrong button.
Your time is coming, Pius. Don't you worry, it's all coming. All right, we're going to move to Jake Betts. Jake, are you here?
Hi, yes, hello.
Hey
Hi,
there.
Cangelosi.
Hey.
Thank you for rescheduling. This last couple weeks were crazy with the winter situation we had. But my question is really about your At Percussion podcast. When I checked, I think you had produced over 250 episodes over it. And the list of guests is really like some of the most influential percussionists of our generation. So I was just wondering if there were any of those interviews that really stood out to you, or just were really particularly inspirational to you as a musician.
Yeah, thanks. And gosh, I'm so glad everyone, I hope you're all okay from the cold. I mean, I know it was a really big deal. I remember Mark texting me and just saying, "Hey, I think we have to reschedule. There's some weather here." And he kind of just played it pretty downplayed. And then I looked at the news and it's like, "Oh my gosh, this is really, really, really serious." So yeah, I hope you all are okay. And yeah, of course, I mean, yeah, no problem rescheduling this. The podcast has been a interesting last 6 years or so, and I mean, in a lot of ways, I mean, I've learned a lot, and I think part of me wanting to do that was transitioning out of being like a student like your whole life, and you're still always kind of a student. You're always learning things from your colleagues, you're always learning things from sessions like this, you're always learning things from the next master class you're going to, etc. But the frequency really varies, and the amount you'll interact with your colleagues might be really limited. I mean, I'll sometimes go weeks without even bumping into a colleague because everyone's really busy. And when you do bump into them, yeah, you're not talking about music, you're not talking about teaching technique, you're not talking about anything like that. So I mean, it's like I was craving a more frequent interaction with people who know a lot more than I do. So the podcast made perfect sense, and it was really hard for a really, really long time to get it going, and now it's finally in a place where I feel like the workload distribution is like really fair, and it's not this impossible task for me anymore. But yeah, of course, I mean, gosh, Evelyn Glennie, what an inspiring episode. Stephen Schick's been on twice now. I loved Ed Smith's episode. I like really, really loved Ed Smith's episode. I mean, there've been a lot of good folks. I think we just recorded one with Marta Klimasara. I thought that one was really, really fun. And sometimes, like my favorite ones are sometimes the funnest. Like I didn't necessarily learn anything. like Hal Rosenfield was really, really fun. I definitely learned some things there, but I just had so much fun on his. And so, yeah, I think there's some big takeaways, like some things that a lot of people want to know. I know one of the questions later is about balance and like work balance. How does a person balance having a family? having a university job, running a podcast, being a composer, sitting on a committee. It's like you look at Mark Ford, like, man, how you're president of Percussive Arts Society? What do you mean you're president of Percussion? How do you do that? How do you do that and hold this director job and compose and run a publishing house? Like, how do you do all that? And so just discovering that that's one of the most common questions, that's really enlightening to me. So it's rarely like any one guest or one episode that sticks out, but kind of these big picture ideas sink in after a while, such as that. Like, that's something people really want to know. That's something that students find really, really mystifying. It's like, how do you do all that? And I do have an answer for that, which I'm going to answer later, but I'll tell you now. We can get back into it and elaborate. But the answer, of course, and what I've learned from all these guests is you never have to do all that stuff all at once. Like, if next week you had to start a new job, open a publishing company, have a family, have a family, and play a short tour. If you had to like suddenly do all that all at once, you never could. But nobody is forced to do all those things all at once. Like, those things gradually come into your life, and you gradually learn how to do them. You gradually learn how to manage publication demand, for instance. It's not just like, oh, one day you got to have a bookshelf to the ceiling full of your publication prints and your stock to send out to all the people. Like, no. You publish something and you put it out there, and for a month 2 people ask for it, and that 2 turns in, it steadily grows at a pace you can absorb. And since you can slowly absorb it, well, that's also when you could start a new job, or when you could decide to make a big family move or something. It's like these things come at you gradually at a pace that's actually digestible. Yeah.
Thank you so much. The podcast has definitely been a useful resource for me after I discovered it the last couple of years. So it's been great.
Cool. Thanks. Yeah, thanks a lot. It's done what I've wanted it to do for me too. Like, it keeps me educated, and it lights a fire under me every week to like try to do a little research.
Well, Casey, it's an inspiration for all of us. I mean, really, you've talked to people that are established in the field, people that are new and upcoming artists, and you've really looked at the full gamut. And that service to you, of course, and to your students, but to the rest of us listening in, has been really indescribable. I mean, what a great opportunity for everyone.
Thanks. Yeah, thanks. And part of the goals of my co-hosts, and one of my initial goals as well, but some of them feel stronger about it than I do, but it's just that preserving, like, hey, let's preserve who these people are. Because there's a lot of folks who, like, they miss the internet wave. Like, if you weren't on YouTube and on social media at a certain point, a lot of students, that they're kind of like, who? In fact, I think I saw on Facebook either just yesterday or 2 days ago, Earl Hatch, underrated composer. It's like, oh yeah, man, Furioso and Waltz, like, I have my students play that all the time. But he maybe is an example of someone, of course, like, wasn't on this internet wave. So if people aren't championing that music themselves, it's not gonna stay, at least in that vein. So that's one example of someone that's like, yeah, let's try to preserve that if we can, and of course we can't get everybody, but we do try.
Great. Well, let's move on to Jack Kloecker. Jack's a master's candidate here in percussion. Jack?
I know Jack.
Yeah. Hey, Casey.
Hey, Jack.
Nice to talk to you again virtually.
Yeah, you too, man.
I hope you're doing well. But my question for you today, so I've been around YouTube since the early days, as we were just kind of discussing about that. But I remember some of the first videos I watched on YouTube relating to percussion were your video, specifically the Etude in A minor one, which was posted 13 years ago. And you've been making regular recordings ever since. And I just wanted to ask, can you talk about the impact that using the internet and social media has had on your career so far as a composer and a performer?
Yeah, awesome. Yeah, thanks, Jack. Yeah, so good to see you. Of course, it's just had a positive impact. I think it's like that student I described of like, hey, you may have all the cool ideas in the world and you may be a really, really killer player down in your parents' basement and you play and shred all day on everything and you're really, really good. But if you don't get out there, if you don't get a presence out there, if you don't produce, it's gonna it's going to be really hard for you to get any traction as far as like a career in the future. Like you really, really have to take an active part in doing that. And I think there are people who, of course, they do the opposite. Like all they do is the networking and they're like, hey, look, I have some beautiful headshots and a slick website. And it's like, okay, where's your playing? Like, let's get some footage of your playing. And so anyway, I mean, of course, the thing it did for me was really just um, getting out there and getting my music out there. And I think what I had described before of where you maybe put one piece or two out there, it takes a while for demand to grow. I mean, it takes a long time for that to happen. So yeah, Jack, I'm surprised it was only 13 years ago. It feels like more to me. I mean, that sounds about right. But it's like, wow, it feels like it's got to have been 25 years ago. I mean, I feel like I've been doing this forever. And I think it's a good model for exactly what you need to do. I mean, you need to be persistent and you have to let let the work do its work for you. Like let your stuff out there and then let it sit there, let it be there for years, and you need to keep adding to it. I mean, Jack said it perfectly. Like, Casey, you released your first video 13 years ago, and then you've continually added to it since then. And I mean, it seems to be a tried and true formula that does really work. And I think it's how people like Jack get to know you. I mean, a really key component to how I got my job here at JMU, which as far as I mean, it's my dream job. I love it here. Like, this is exactly the kind of job I want to have. It's exactly where I wanted to end up, but it took a lot of time. It took a lot of persistence, and it took a lot of continuing to write and continuing to publish and continuing to gig. And even when the YouTube channel wasn't appearing to give any returns, well, you just do it anyway. You just keep doing it, and you just kind of keep a faith, I guess, that hey, this is eventually gonna do something for you. And even if it didn't, you would still do it because you have that thing, that grit, that need to do it that we were talking about earlier. So it was a key component to me getting my job here, because evidently the students talked to our band director, Steve Bolstad. He said, like, hey, have you heard of this Casey Cangelosi? And they said, no way, are you interviewing him? Yeah, I'm playing one of his pieces right now. So I mean, that's like a huge feather in my cap as a candidate, just to think like, wow, this person is on the students' radar already. Like, the students already know who this person is. Their eyes lit up when we said their name. They're playing their rep. That's important. Recruiting is such a thing now in schools. I mean, your first job, those of you who are out there trying to get a university professorship, one of the first things they're going to ask you, and somewhere in there is like, hey, what's your recruiting model? What's your recruiting plan? How are you going to bring students to this school? So yeah, I mean, there's just a lot of good things that goes along with that. And it doesn't hurt also to have a side income and a side publishing business to boot. Also, just of course the invitations, like the one Pius was teasing me about in Taiwan, the calendar. I'll show you all some of my. Why not? I should do a screen share. You're probably tired of hearing me this much. Let's see. I'll do a quick screen share. But I think like this is my website. This is my calendar. It started. Let's see, way back in 2011. Let's see if I can make this a little, I won't go bigger. Okay, way back in 2011, like, January 8th, Minnesota Percussion Association Day of Percussion, St. Paul, Minneapolis. Like, the first call you get was, hey, our students here are playing your work, and we're using one of your works in our, competitions or something. So getting your stuff out there and getting it circulated as a composer, yeah, I mean, it was hugely advantageous for me. And social media is just the only way I could possibly do it. I remember hearing about YouTube from a friend way back in probably 2000 and I'll say 8 or 2007 or 8, and just like, oh wow, it's free. It's free, and you can just anyone can look at it. Yeah, that sounds like a good deal. You know, I mean, you should be making video recordings anyway. So yeah, of course that's a good deal. It doesn't cost you anything and anyone can see it. So putting that stuff out there and letting it grow steadily, I mean, that is really what led to all these invitations. And I mean, that was a huge part of my resume for this job and for the job prior to that, and for future, just my future livelihood. This is real important to have done all this. So yeah, I mean, it's because of social media and that circulation that I was able to travel all these places and do all these things. And from what I've been told, this is a fairly heavy amount for 2000 and let's look at, I don't know, 2017. There's a chunk of, I don't know, 6 of them or something. 2016 is a lot more. 2015 a lot more. So it's really, I'm not trying to brag. I'm just trying to say like how important it was, and what it did for me. And if you do it and you're patient and you're persistent and you keep adding to it, like Jack described, I did, it should, the evidence says it should serve you also.
Wonderful. And it's that vision for your art, Casey, that you keep adding. It's not just content, it's actually visionary content, which is what is intriguing, which draws people in, I think. And that is a huge kudos to you, exactly. And
thanks, Mark.
Oh, very good. Let's move on to Sam Koch. Sam's a freshman this year.
Hello. I'm glad to be talking with you this evening. So my question was like basically going off what Professor Ford just said about you creating visionary content. And my main question, I wanted to ask you about your process behind the Big Audition, which like includes the intricate set you had with like the dim lighting and the camera shot you had. And I also want to know if the lines that were spoken in the audio playback have a deeper meaning to them beyond the performance. And I would just like to add on if you could like talk about maybe your creative process behind like not all, but like what you go through when like you're making a lot of your videos, because I noticed that like you do a lot more than just like film yourself playing. I think that's really cool.
Yeah, thanks so much, Sam. Let's see. Well, the Big Audition was definitely one of those zoom back pieces, where you have the big concept and you have kind of it's one that existed in like a single picture, like I was showing with my notebook before, and it was a commission by Keith Aleo, who worked at still works at Zildjian, I think, but he big career at Zildjian and big orchestral career, Miami Symphony. And he told us the story of how, he worked at Miami Symphony, had this wonderful job as a percussionist there, and the symphony eventually folded, and he had this like, oh my gosh, what do I do? And I've worked so hard for orchestral percussion, and now I got to find something else to do. And he ended up working at Zildjian, and then he had a very, very good and still very successful teaching career today. And after telling me that story of having to relocate and deal with his symphony folding, he asked a bunch of us for a piece for solo cymbals. I'm trying to commission a recital's worth of works for cymbals, and I remember talking to him saying like, I don't know what that could possibly be. I can't think of what that is. Sorry. And he just said, well, no, just think on it for a while. Think about it. You don't have to give me an answer anytime soon. And yeah, eventually this idea sunk in, thinking of his audition experience and the symphony, going under, and just that whole career path, that whole career path of like trying to get there, and how we're all like trying to get there. So, and like once I had that, it's like, okay, that's what this piece is about. That's definitely what this piece is going to be. It's going to be a message to us and to you all, and it's going to be this inside joke that no one else is going to get, and that's okay, because a lot of times we are our own audience for each other, and in the field we are kind of our own audience. So let me do a little screen share, I guess, just to show what this what this piece is exactly. So let's see. Big Audition. Here's a bunch of the inside baseball on the files, because there's a lot of files that went into this one. But yeah, this is this piece for solo cymbals and tape playback, and kind of the whole deal is that you it's a setting as if the performer's taking an audition. And so like they come out on stage and a voice starts instructing them what to do. So there's all this like explanation of it, but let's see, maybe maybe I'll just get some of the recording going, maybe, so that we can hear along just a little bit. Let's see, 4 clicks for video only. Is this the right thing? I don't think that's it. Hang on, is this it?
Okay. Now, please, number 1, and from the top.
I assume you all can hear that. Let's see. So, instructions. Okay, so here's the piece. Playback, the cymbal part, and we're not going to hear the cymbal part, but you can imagine it pretty easily. And here are here's the voice, right, from the video.
Okay. Now, please, number 1, and from the top.
So just note right here, these straight quarter notes. This is the first thing in Keith Aleo's auxiliary book. He asks you just to play straight crashes, and he tells you to do them at all different dynamics. So I thought, okay, well, of course, this is from Keith. This is about Keith. This is to Keith. So this needs to involve Keith in as many ways as I can let it, and still like what I'm hearing and still like what's happening. So we're singing here.
No, that will not do. I have it needs to be better. And better still. You came with high recommendation, yes? You should have a knack for this. Yes, but it is meant to be had on time. Also, you need to apply your better effort.
So it's sort of this whole idea that this person is giving you instructions at your audition, but if you know the piece and you keep following, you notice the text slowly it becomes clear that it's not an actual person, but it's a voice in your head, and it's all about how the big audition we're trying to take is that of like making a career of this in life, and that becomes pretty clear slowly with the text. So I thought that was just such a fun idea to do, like to make like a note to you all, and I don't know, there's a couple of inside jokes, like she asked you to play the Rachmaninoff, please, right? The cymbal excerpt where you play like really, really ridiculously soft, and you play it once right here where my mouse is, and she says that was awful. And then you play it again, and she says, okay, but like play it more piano. I need you to play it much quieter than you would ever actually have to play it. Just like we have to do in auditions. Like in an audition, you got to play Lieutenant Kiji like crazy softer than you do in real life, so on and so forth. We know those stories. So then I asked the player to like, okay, do the motions of the cymbal crashes silently. Don't actually play. And so you don't play, and you do the motions of it, and she says, yes, wonderful, you nailed it. And then anyway, goes on to just like express a lot of the tropes and the expectations that we have in our repertoire and our auditions, so on and so forth. And of course, yeah, the whole idea at the end is just that you're this is an audition for you and for yourself and that sort of thing. And I've played it in front of, the heaviest orchestral folks out there, and they love it. They don't, I was worried, they might think it's a little like insulting, and no, they just laugh and high five and end up really liking it. So as far as like, is there extra meaning in the words? Yeah, for sure. Yeah, definitely. And that was one that, again, like having this big picture idea and fighting over like, okay, what's the text going to be? Who am I going to get to, record the text for me? What are the words exactly going to be, so I can, let the audience think for the first couple minutes that the whole setting of the piece is one thing, but then it slowly kind of reveals itself to be this other thing. And how are we going to do that without it being too on the nose, without it being too cheesy, and to have it be funny and good at the same time by my feeling. And I remember I was in a hotel room on a trip, and I was just like, I was literally pacing back and forth, like pulling hair, just thinking like, hey, wait, what are the words going to be? And like jotting stuff down, and like, no, it might be this, it might be that, I don't know. And just doing that until it was done, until it was at a place where I liked it. As far as the camera work and things, I'm so glad you even mentioned it, because I was so disappointed with my recording of it. It was a really hard piece to record, actually, and I think this is very much along the lines of Jack's social media point and me showing you my calendar. This is one of those pieces that I don't think the recording sells it on its own. It's one of those pieces that you really have to sit through the whole thing to really be sold on it and to really enjoy it. Like, not many people are looking at YouTube and going like, oh, a guy in a chair hitting cymbals to someone's voice. I don't get the appeal. Click on and like there's a cat video like waiting for you. It's really hard to try that out if you're not already invested. But I mean, it's such a shame about COVID. We don't have to sit anymore. We don't get to sit through performances anymore. And sometimes, you don't know how good a piece is until you're in the 10th minute. A few years ago, my colleagues and I, we did a George Crumb, 2 pianos, 2 percussion, Macrocosmos 3. And there's the last movement is the one that people often just play on its own. And it's really cool. It's beautiful. And there's these cool Bach quotations in the piano parts, and you slip sheets of paper in the piano strings, and it makes this really cool kind of broken, eerie effect. And it's really, really beautiful. And that's great. And remember, that's the last movement. And that's pretty effective, but it's way more effective after the first 20 minutes. And so like, you just don't get that YouTube video. I don't think I've ever gotten that from a video performance. So this is one of those pieces that, man, if I knew of a way of getting it across where people would really latch onto it more, I really would. And it's one that I love playing live because it's easy, for one thing, and also it always gets such a good response, and students often are interested in playing it afterwards. So yeah, thanks, Sam.
Thank you so much.
Sure.
Wonderful. That's a great piece.
Thanks, man.
Next is Nicole Zagorski. Nicole? Are you there, Nicole? Okay, well then, tell you what, we'll move over and see if she's, maybe she's having some trouble. Yun-Chen Chou.
Hello,
Hi.
hello, Mr. Cangelosi. I'm a big fan of you, so it's really great to see you
Oh, thanks.
today. Yeah. So my question is, you are an active composer, percussionist, and educator. When you have a lot of projects that you want to work on, what is your strategy to manage all of these things? And do you have any new projects that you're working on now?
Yeah, thanks. And yeah, like I was saying a few minutes ago, this seems to be the most asked thing I hear about to our podcast guests is how do you manage, how do you do so much? And like I said, I think all these things they come at you at a pace you're able to absorb, and all these big life changes, luckily they don't all happen at once. Sometimes several of them happen at once. That can certainly happen. It is perfectly possible to find out you're having a baby the same day you found out you got a job or something, or that you need to move, or yeah, that certainly can happen, but I don't think it's very common for all of them to land all at once. So the interesting thing is when we ask the guests on the podcast that question, the answer is very not magical. It's very, well, just one foot in front of the other until it's done. And you, if you need time, you find time. And it's sort of like when you ask good memorizers of music, like Stephen Schick or Keiko Abe, they have the same story on how they memorize music. How do you memorize music so well? Well, I start with the first note, and then I do the second note. And then after I know the first and second note, I move to the third note. It's like, wow, that is so, there's no magic secret there. So I think I think that is the big secret. It's just like, hey, there is no secret. You just gotta do it. You just gotta do it until it's done. And some nights you're up really late, and learn to wake up early, and eventually you enjoy waking up early. And even now, like, man, my son wakes me up at least once a night, sometimes more, but it's okay. Like it doesn't knock me out. Like I had a normal day today at work. I had another just good day. You get used to it. It seems impossible at first, but like I don't have bags under my eyes, and I wasn't a zombie in lessons, and yeah, you get used to it, and eventually you're okay. Yeah, and as far as what I'm working on now, yeah, I definitely have some things. It's going very, very slow, but I've got some things: drum set and tape, snare drum and tape, marimba solo. It's yeah, they're all so slow going because I'm working on several of them at once. I'm also working on just like some big teaching projects, big book packets and things like that.
Casey, this year we did thank you, Jane. We just played a piece that you had a scheme about in terms of Emily's joining us now. We called it finding chaos finding peace in a year of chaos, rather.
Yeah.
And basically, Casey had crafted a way that 5 people could create a work, maybe 3 minutes or long, so not very long. But we did it with the Beta Institute last summer with Pius and Erico and Michael Udow. And it was so interesting for me that we did it with the school, and they enjoyed it thoroughly. You want to talk a little bit about how you came up with that process?
Yeah, sure. I think coming up with it, it's like, okay, how are we going to do a group composition? Like, what are we going to do? Are we going to each write 4 bars, or this or that? How are we going to integrate all those things? And I think similar to, let's see if I have it right here, Casey collaboration piece. Yeah, why not? Hopefully there's nothing like really silly in this folder. I don't think there is. But I think similar to how I was describing finding the text for the Big Audition piece, just that like pacing, and that like that thinking of, okay, like what is it going to be? How am I going to do it? I know, like I don't know what it is yet, but I know I need to think it's good. So I'm gonna sit here and like have a headache until it until I find it. And I think that's something worth saying about composition. I mean, we said that little famous quote of 99% perspiration, 1% inspiration. It's like the inspiration behind this piece is like nothing. It's like, hey, can there be 5 people writing a piece? That's it. That was the inspiration. I mean, there's nothing really special and magical about that. But how it kind of worked is I had let's see if I can find the instructions first. Actually, let's see parts. No. Let's see. Let me see if I find the instructions. Assignments and instructions. Yeah, here we go. So anyway, like Mark was saying, there are these instructions and there's 5 composers, and we had these specific little tasks to do, and similar to what I showed you in Bad Touch, kind of having movements and headings, I thought it would make sense to guide myself a little bit to base these off of sayings we've heard before. So like I called phase 1A meet and greet. Okay, and that makes sense because it's meet and greet, it's getting to know each other, it's getting to know what it's going to be. So my instruction, Casey writes measures 2 and 4 in part 1, which was my part, and establishes instruments and a notation key. Mark does the same, Pius does the same, Mike Udao does the same, Erica does the same, and that sort of ended up like this. So here's me writing those 2 bars. And again, this isn't the first bar, this is the second bar of the piece. So the first bar is still empty. That was part of the instructions. And then Mark wrote that. So he had to write that based on what he saw in my second bar right here. So he came up with this. And of course, it makes sense. Hey, there's going to be a crescendo landing into this mezzo forte. He's going to start softer, and then he's going to like crawl back down into this thing, which is going to be piano. So that way you're forced to feed off each other a little bit, and that followed the meet and greet saying, right? And then so on and so forth. Other people continued their measures, and I kept track of it all just with these screenshots, right? It was just kind of a hairy email fest. People would just send stuff back and forth. But actually, once we got the swing of things, it was really, really smooth. And I just kind of tracked the whole piece and showed the whole progress of what it was. We couldn't get a great realization of it, but I think we will be able to in the future. It turns out it was really just Zoom that I think made it so we couldn't do it. We just really needed to be in person. I think we would have been just fine. But anyway, I mean, we ended up with this like really hip piece. And I think like Mark was saying, like it's like, oh, okay, our piece wasn't the coolest thing in the world, but he loved the process. It's like, oh yeah, the process is what's cool here. And I think that's what composition, I mean, when you're studying composition, that's really the thing you're trying to learn. Once and for all, you're trying to learn the processes you're going to use and how you're going to write. So yeah, meet and greet was the first phase, and then I don't mean to burst your bubble was another, and that was one where I think, let's see. Oh yeah, so for instance, Pius writes any 6 beats in measures 9 through 12 and must change any other beats in measures and must change any other 3 beats. So he has to alter someone else's part. All right, hence the like bursting of your bubble. And then I made Mike Udao omit someone's beats in the same chunk. Erico had to omit beats in someone else's part. So that worked. Or like, here you go, you can say that again. We were allowed to repeat a chunk, so on and so forth. And then I just drew out the work distribution. So like, yeah, this feels so silly now, but like my coloring is red, Mark's was blue, Pius's was this kind of pink, and Mike Udao's was orange, and Erico's was green. So you could kind of see like everyone had equal part in it. And I made Mike Udao come up with a title. And I think I made Mark vote on his favorite ending. So yeah, the last thing was all good things must come to an end, obviously. And Casey, Pius, and Erico each write a possible final 2 to 4 bars. Mark picks one version from the 3 that he likes best to end the piece, and then Mr. Udao gives it a title. So I don't know. Yeah, that's kind of how that worked. That was fun. Yeah.
Well, that was really beautiful. I mean, just how you put it together and thought about it and allowed us to be able to interact with each other, but we're really not in conjunction with each other. That was what was interesting. You know,
Right.
we really didn't
Right.
get a chance to react to each other. We had to only deal with what each other wrote. You know, there was no discussion, you know. So.
Right. Yeah. Well, and it's cool you guys were all game for it. You know, it wouldn't have worked if you all wouldn't have been like, yeah, sure, what the hell, let's try it, you know. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, the guys here too did such a great job, and many of them are on the session tonight. So
Yeah, bravo you all. That's really, really cool. I was amazed with yeah, just I don't know. So everything you're doing there is really great.
Okay, we've got 2 more questions for you, Casey.
Okay.
Randa, are you here?
Yes, hi.
Hello.
Hi, Mr. Cangelosi. My question, or thank you for joining us. My
Sure.
question was, how do you navigate the difficulty of shifts in character within a piece musically and technically?
Yeah, sure. I think well sometimes sometimes I don't, you know. I think sometimes I just say like, hey, I think these 2 things are different, or I think these 2 things aren't compatible. You know, a classic teacher to student compositional discussion is, yeah, I just think you have too many ideas here. You know, that there's a bunch of different ideas, and if this isn't transitioning into another, maybe that's because you're not done with the one idea yet. You know, like it seems like so often the thing we have to work on is just development. And can you keep this one piece of content and turn it into a common thread throughout the whole piece? Can you do that, you know, before shifting to an entirely different idea? However, you know, if you do really want to merge 2 ideas, yeah, if you can find what's similar between one or the other, and then gradually have them, you know, sound similar or relate, I think that's yeah, that's just takes practice. You know, I would practice what you can do with your ideas. I think that's something that we think of composition really different. It's not something you practice. Practicing is something you practice. But I think we need to keep in mind, you know, what does a composer do when they don't feel like writing, or they're not inspired to write? You write anyway. You know, you just sit there and have a headache until the hour elapses, you know, until you've said, okay, I'm sitting here for 2 hours and I'm going to write. And even if nothing ends up on paper and you just have a headache for 2 hours, that's okay. That's not like a waste of time, you know. Like that's you trying to do it. That's you flexing your creative muscle. And that was me pacing around in the hotel room trying to find like just the right dialogue for that piece of music. And I think if I was waiting for inspiration, I would have never finished it. You know, if I was waiting for inspiration, I would have said like, well, I'm not inspired and this is hard, and now that maybe that means it's not good, so let's not do it, you know. So yeah, the ideas don't always have to make sense. I think what maybe you could do is say, I have 2 ideas, I'd love to get from A to B, but maybe I'm not done with A yet. Maybe B is a whole other piece. You know, like what more can I do with A? Or like, let's put B aside for a minute and just like focus on A and see how long A can go until we're tired of it. A good friend of mine here at JMU, a much better composer than I, he's on the comp faculty, Eric Ganadin, he talks about when he's doing his notebook, which is much tidier and organized and much more, you know, dedicates his time more like I wish I could. he he talks about, he puts his ideas through kind of a system of testing them. It's like, okay, here's an idea, a theme, it's 2 bars, and how many different variations can I make of that? Okay, what does that sound like upside down? Okay, what does that sound like in reverse? Like kind of the classic ways of developing and varying an idea. And he'll see how far he can go with it. And then he'll take his second idea and see if it goes any further. And then his third idea and see, and kind of like test them out, like see what he can do with each of them. And then he'll only pick one, like only one of them makes the cut. So I think that's another thing, like, we can throw stuff away. It's just like when you practice, you're practicing for a performance, or you're practicing for a lesson, and you're doing scales and you're doing exercises. That's all stuff that, nobody but you hears. In the compositional sense, that gets thrown away. Nobody hears it, but it goes into your hands, it goes into your mind, and you keep it. But that type of practice makes sense. I think we need that same kind of practice in composition, and then you find connecting those ideas is possible or not needed.
Thank you.
Sure.
Casey, one time I went to a Monet exhibit at the Kimball Museum here in Fort Worth. And they had one room, they had like 13 paintings where Monet painted the exact same painting.
Yeah.
But like number 7 was the masterpiece, but it never occurred to me that these guys would paint the same thing over and over again until they felt comfortable about, what they had done, or looked at it in retrospect. And
right.
You're right. So there was throwaway, but yet here's the masterpiece, number 7. Yeah, for example. It was incredible.
Yeah. Perfect analogy. And think about all the throwaway even before those. Like think of how much technique overlap in those impressionists there are. Like think of how much water they've already done. Think of how much haze in a sunset they've already done. Like there's so much of that practice has already gone into there, even before like the replicas or the series.
Wonderful.
Yeah.
Wow. Well, this evening has flown by here, Casey. We're down to our last question here. It's from Riley Wine. Riley?
Hi, Mr. Cangelosi. Thank you so much for being here tonight. So my question for you is about your non-musical interests, and specifically, how do you bring them into your music? How do they factor into your work as a musician? And also, how can an aspiring musician make themselves a well-rounded person while still being fully devoted to their craft as a musician?
Yeah, cool. No, that's a really, really great question, Riley. I don't know that I always am able to bring it in a very direct way. I think of composers who, I know maybe they have a passion for the outdoors. So Peyton, what's Peyton's last name? Peyton McDonald, I think.
Yeah, that's right. That's
yeah. Thanks, Mark. Like Peyton went out. I learned this from our podcast. He biked across the U.S. and he commissioned a series of pieces to be performed outside. And he has a passion for the outdoors. He has a passion for biking. He has a passion for music. And he made a little video. He made a significant video documentary about it. But it's not like he was trying to play these pieces for all of us. He was just doing this big gesture for the birds and the trees and himself. That is like a very perfect integration of his interest and his art. I've certainly never done anything that perfect, where it's that direct. I think where maybe I've brought it in is like this concept of the Big Audition piece, like a message to you all who are trying to trying to make a go of this and make a career of this, that I think is of course an interest. You know, we have our friends and our colleagues and our teachers and our students, and that was an interest brought into that particular piece of music. So yeah, I think that the influence, of course, is always there. I mean, the influence is omnipresent. You know, people also say like, where do ideas come from? It's like, man, I don't know. I mean, they must come from the stuff around you. You know, they must come from the things you read and the things you see on the news and the interactions you have with your friends, family, and colleagues, and so on and so forth. I mean, yeah, I don't know where they come from, but that must be it. You know, where else could it be? So I think they're integrated in that way, but yeah, not too many direct interests the way Peyton does it for me, and I think that's okay. You know, I mean, it's we all have varying ways that we incorporate those things, you know. As far as being like all around like interesting person, I think it's true. Like if you're gonna have something to say as an artist and you're gonna be saying it to people, yeah, you need to, you know, definitely don't lock yourself in a practice room for 2 years straight. You can do it for a few months, you know, that's okay. Don't come out with an injury. But yeah, you definitely have to practice a lot, but yeah, you don't have to, you can't practice so much that it makes you insane and that it makes you, you know, not able to talk to people. But you also have to take that advice and say like, well, you know, I've already been practicing for 30 minutes and I better go hang out with friends so that I have something to say. Like, well, like that's definitely not what I'm saying. And that's definitely not what we're saying. I think you can tell, you know, you can tell like, oh, I haven't had a social interaction in 2 days and I just went to buy, you know, I just went to get something at the gas station and I could like barely talk to the cashier. It's like, well, yeah, then you know, like it's time to like just be normal for a little while, you know. So I don't know. It's all about balance, I think. I hope that's the right stuff, Riley.
Yeah, definitely. Thank you very much.
Yeah.
That's a tough question. No kidding.
Yeah.
Well, Casey, do you have any advice for these students since we're finished with our questions? Any closing comments or advice for them in their studies?
Just do whatever Mark, Ed, and Chris say. Just that should do it. It should be fine.
All
Just
right,
do
thank
what
you,
they
Casey.
say. You're welcome. No, thank you all so much. I think we covered a lot, and your questions were really. I hear questions all day, every day. You know, podcast, guest artist things, and all your questions are really thoughtful and good and mature, I think. So yeah, thanks for the great questions.
Wonderful. Well, we want to thank you for your inspiration, for being here and sharing your passion, your dedication for your craft and percussion with us. Because we're trying to do what you do, of course, you know, in our own way. And all of these students are looking for their own voice as well at the same time. So bravo.
Awesome.
Thank you so much, Casey. Thank you.
Thank
Cool.
you, Casey.
Thanks, everybody.
Want to remind everybody that we'll be back on March the 22nd with Andy Norrell for our final 10 questions plus. Okay. Have a great evening. Take care.
Casey,
Bye-bye.
thank you so much.
Thanks, Ed. Good to see you.
Great to see you too, buddy.
Yeah. Take care.
Yeah, you too.
Thank you, everybody. Was amazing. Bye.